Oh yeah, we got that rock and roll in the sun, 27 degrees. Got some public workers to salute, some firefighters, truckers, bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the welders, daycare workers changing some diapers Monday, although it's a holiday. Special Labor Day edition for the workers of the 63, the North American Collectif. Got that backpack. Was a bit moody, but feel better. Did my laundry. Gotta be grateful, thankful. Paid my rent. It is September 11th. Is paid my rent. The only thing left to pay is my phone bill, but paid my rent today on the 1st, as always. Never missed rent, and super important. Paid my rent and paid my electricity bill already Friday, so that was taken over and that was paid, and that's that rock and roll. Gonna leave some garbage and going to my second home. Did some laundry. Gotta be grateful, thankful that I got the laundry mat and the dryer and the washer and the dryer, so thank you, my anonymous friend. Got that red backpack, auctioning everything that I'm having on me. So it's a lot, gratitude is great for mental health, although financially stressed. Financial stress aside, it's a lot of things you can be grateful for on a daily basis. And life, sometimes it hits you hard. And I was hit hard, with depression, was depressed, was suicidal, and got out of being depressed and suicidal in 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. And that event changed my life, crossing Canada coast to coast, celebrating 8 years until September around about, We were in Vancouver. And of course, afterwards we went to Vancouver, BC, of course, in August. And in September, of course, we went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So now I'm going to my second home, the mountain. And it's something, of course, which we have, of course, to do and to appel, where the dimensions of our... Gotta turn your heads left or right before you cross the street, always super important, because you never know, the brakes malfunction, and of course the electricity malfunctions. But it's sometimes which of course we have to be mindful, of course, in a day-to-day basis, where our engagement with the civil society and our brothers and sisters, all who are involved now in the XYZ, and all who are on the road now, my fellow citizens, whether by driving or by car, by the pedestrians, all the engagements are to be extra added prudence, because I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations. When we're outside, we got added responsibility and observations and obligations and duties, So it's always something which we gotta be mindful of. Gotta salute the bus drivers. Freestyle session, marching to the mountain, and was a bit moody, wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but if you're millionaires, billionaires of the 63, if you finance the firefighters, those are going to pick up the garbage, garbage collection now, of course, ongoing with the garbage collection. And of course it is something which we got to salute, they're athletes as well. Please give, of course, the garbage collectors, those who pick up the garbage, the sanitation, the plumbers, those who pick up, of course, the sanitation, the garbage collectors, the truckers, the firefighters, public workers, basically finance the millionaire billionaires. A massage therapy session, and of course all that rock and roll is something where we have to be in. That is XYZ being, in all that we have as elementals, fellow citizens, of the North American Collectif, and is something which, of course, we have, of course, to underline, that these services, it takes a balanced public-private approach, and of course, all these services we have together in the collective are, of course, balanced. But of course, now we have, of course, the financial strait, which is added, the financial stress. Well, stress and strain, they kind of interchange the dynamics of the words. It kind of means that we're kind of suffering in a way, Financially, of course, we're suffering. And, of course, that is something which, of course, we have to do if we can salvage any situational awareness. And if I can be of any help, myself as an aspie, it's always something which I have in a Concordia, that I have this added, that we are less able in certain circumstances. It's of course the social dynamics and the social spheres of all our engagements are a bit on the more different side. We are different, I'm not only androgynous, pansexual, I have this difference, this difference, of course, is consequently due to that Asperger's. We view the world differently, and that is how we view the world, in a different manner. And of course we have to get it on the go. Gonna turn my heads left or right. Watch the car here. You're taking or you're leaving? You're taking or you're leaving?
I don't know, man. You got a lot going on.
You're taking or you're leaving?
Oh, I'm not touching it. I'm just fixing it.
Oh, you're fixing what? Can I get some bread?
You can get whatever you like. Slam!
No, don't. I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I don't like violence, but no sausage, nothing like that.
Nah, I just opened it.
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay. Oh, the bread's good. The bread's good. I'm gonna put it in a bag though.
Sure.
Put it in the bag.
There's a bag.
Put it in that. Is that romaine lettuce? I'm gonna take some of those.
Yeah.
That is it. Bread and lettuce for me.
Oh, you got the perfume on today. Oh,
Yeah, perfect.
Oh,
man.
you were fucking partying.
No, I'm not.
No?
I'm not. Seems that the one who's partying is you're partying
Yeah.
on the daily. I can't blame you at your age, you know.
Listen, what I was doing at 20, I still do at 75. I haven't changed my lifestyle one second iota. I still shoot dope, man.
Oh yeah, I don't do that stuff.
I mean, I'm still hardcore, man.
I don't do that stuff. I guess with my autism, you know, I'm already doped up, you know.
Oh yeah, okay. I got autism, yeah.
Asperger's, yeah.
That's awesome. No shit.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah, my brain's different already, you know. You know Asperger brains, right?
Yeah.
We have that different mutations
I
and all that.
understand.
So I'm already
psychology
I'm already doped up as it is, man. Naturally, you know. Okay, buds. Be careful when you shoot, man. I don't want you ODing, you know.
Listen to me. See, I put a skeleton hand there.
Yeah.
Because whenever I did a hit, I'd look and I go, I don't want to die by my own hand. You know, so listen, I got this fucking kicked out there.
It's your body, man. It's your body,
you know
man.
what?
I can't judge you. It's your
I
body.
don't shoot anymore. You know why? Well, I did once, a couple of weeks ago. But that was just to test the product for somebody. Because of the fentanyl.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Fentanyl is just dropping people.
Yeah, fentanyl is something else. It's getting us, and it's got us in trouble with our brothers and sisters in the States. You saw what they're doing now?
Oh.
Politically, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We're not to mess around, man. We got to be careful with that because if, you know,
Yeah.
we got to take that seriously, you know.
Fentanyl is killing thousands.
It's
Tens of thousands of people.
And the problem is that geopolitically, the Trump administration took a direct turn against us, against Canada. It's never happened before.
Yeah, I know, but don't worry.
It never happened before.
Carney ain't worried about it. He's a good guy. He's a straight shooter.
I never met Carney, but I know Carney, Uncle Carney is...
But you know what, I got to give DT...
Yeah, but Uncle Carney is not going to fight.
A heads up.
It's a Canadian Armed Forces, buddy. Who's going to fight?
Because he sent the Air Force, the drones, the fucking stealth fighters. He wiped out cartel labs that were hidden in the fucking jungle for 20 years.
Yeah.
Been making fentanyl and fucking methamphetamine. So I love what he's doing on the border. You know,
what is he doing on the border? It's not him that's doing on the border. It's the men and women in uniform.
Take all the fucking illegal.
It's not him.
The fuck is that?
I gotta go.
Okay.
Gotta go. So I got a little bit of geopolitics there, but I know she was just kidding my friend there, but you know, I don't do drugs myself. The only drug I do is rock and roll, a bit of geopolitics and sports and fitness, but that's it for me, you know. I don't do with that rock and roll with that like that, but it's something which of course you have to be aware of. I got some bread, I got some other, I guess, safe injection sites. If you go to safe injection sites, you might be able to be safe on, but that is just something which of course you gotta get that rock and roll, you know, always through the, because like fitness activities, and I live a fitness lifestyle, you know, and I'm happy to enjoy us with that. With my Asperger's, I'm already, I guess, naturally DOPE, and you know, I was gonna engage a little bit more in the conversation, but I just realized that the conversation wasn't appropriate at a moment in time due to my acquaintance's inclination at this state of mind where he was. My assessment was that continuing the geopolitical discussion would have perhaps not been too appropriate in terms that the intellectual capabilities and faculties where we are to navigate the complex geopolitical dynamics were not. I decided to not continue the conversation, and I just said I gotta go with that, and that was just something, a beautiful yellow flower. So sometimes, you know, as an ASPE, you know, these social dynamics are more difficult for me to engage in the understanding fully the sequential apparatus, of course, of getting in the go with that, and getting, of course, in the understanding of all the dynamics where we are intellectually with wisdom, understanding, and keen information available, where we discuss certain ideas, theories, and realities of today's geopolitical environment. And I decided that it wasn't, beautiful yellow flowers, I decided that it wasn't particularly mutually beneficial or worthy of a continuous discussion of geopolitical matters as it relates to fentanyl and the question of fentanyl, which more and more I label as a bioweapon, you know, than as an actual drug. And it's gotten us some trouble now with the United States, our brothers and sisters in the 50s, where I lived in a past life, you know, 24/7 in a past life. And it smells like cigarettes here. Please don't smoke in the bus shelter, because I see plenty of cigarettes. Please don't smoke in the bus shelters, because you got kids, and if somebody comes with children here, you know, it's just, even myself, I don't like. Last cigarette I smoked was in 2017 when I was in Vancouver, and I haven't smoked ever since. But I got some lettuce, I got some bread, and that's enough, of course, to be quantified and to be quantifiable and to be, I mean, the quantity of the smoke here, it seems that it's still lingering, you know. Somebody has smoked and it's still lingering. And for my fellow other citizens, like I told my anonymous friend, and you know what he does with the body, that's his business. And you know, somebody who doesn't engage in drug consumption. And besides, we got that legal cannabis coast to coast since 2019. I still have leftovers myself. If I smoke, I'm not gonna smoke inside an area where other citizens can come here, because it's an enclosed space. See, here, for example, it's an enclosed space, and due to the fact enclosed space, see, it's enclosed. So here, that's why the smoke, because of the clothes and this, it smells, it lingers. I don't know when it was that the person smoked. Oh my goodness. I don't know, what is it here? It looks like Smoke Central, what's happening here? Smoke Central. This is a mess. Don't leave this here. Children can touch, children can, if people with children come and might swallow that, you know, you gotta put it in the trash. Wish I could have some gloves. I could do the volunteering myself, but I don't smoke cigarettes. Last cigarette I smoked was 2017, Vancouver, BC. Last cigarette I smoked was Vancouver, BC. That was my last pack. Well, I didn't even smoke a pack. I bought one, but I don't remember if I finished it, you know. So I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't like cigarettes, and I don't do drugs, you know. I don't do drugs, and I understand some people do it, and for XYZ reasons, and it's not something where I am. Like I told my anonymous acquaintance who gifted me just before Christmas for December, gifted me those red and white, white and red, those great red and white great red and white running shoes, and I'm wearing my military grade boots today, but nonetheless, there was he was taking some food, and was taking some food there in the fridge, community fridge, and I wish I could fill that fridge more often, but I'm financially stressed already, but nonetheless, and I'm not sure exactly, benefit of the doubt, gotta give everybody if he was just messing around or if he was actually, what he said was whatever, what he mentioned some drug use, so I don't know if it's, what was it, and, you know, told him the truth, you know, myself, you know, I'm already, with my Asperger's, I'm already under permanent dosage, you know, because Asperger's is just a way of course, Asperger's is not a disease, it's not an illness, it's just there's no medication for Asperger's, it's just that we're weird. So I guess the perception from a neurotypical perspective vis-a-vis us Aspies is that we are different, so we don't really need to do any of the consumption whatsoever because we're already inclined and different as it is, because our brains have these mutations, right? Asperger's. I live with this neurological mental divergent condition called Aspies, and you know, there's half of Aspies that are undiagnosed, and I'm not officially diagnosed. I've been diagnosed by several individuals over the past years who have some experience in the healthcare system, and you know, that's 0.44%, is less than 1%. That's the population of Aspies, including myself, and so that means that in actual truth there's double. So even double 0.44 is not even 1%. So that's 0.88%, not even 1%, even if there's only half of the Aspie population which is diagnosed officially, the other half is undiagnosed officially. But even with that, the disparity that is between us Aspies and the majority of the population lies that we are less than 1%, regardless, even if there would be the full percentage of Aspies who would be, of course, diagnosed. So that is just something which you have to fully understand and fully get the requiem, of course, of all the civilizational aspects of our being where we are involved now. So yeah, I took some lettuce, took some bread, and my anonymous acquaintance there, I told him my concern is I want him, because we always have a good exchange. I sing some rock and roll for him all the time, and he seems to enjoy my rock and roll. Maybe he's lying, I don't know. Gotta tell me, you suck at rock and roll and that's it, I won't sing for you ever again, or I might sing and tell me again, and that is just something where we have to be, and that is just something how we are. But of course, that is the reality of the situation, and of course all the dictums and all the environmental awareness, that's this potential, the environmental awareness of the consequences of drug users. Like I told him, I don't want him to overdose, so he's got a lot of living to do, I guess, but ultimately, I guess what you put in your body is a choice, and I guess with my HFA, high functioning autism, Asperger's, being an Aspie, I don't need to. Look at these beautiful flowers. I'm already ecstasy, in a manner that is more intellectual, rock and roll, sports based, and of course geopolitically based, and then geopolitics is my sports and fitness, and I wanted to engage at that particular moment. I decided that vis-a-vis the exchanges that we have for those 4 minutes were not, of course, would have not been productive to continue and engage in a deeper, more meaningful, look at that red one, in a deeper, more meaningful geopolitical discussion of the realities where we are now vis-a-vis the United States in a more academic, scholarly manner. It would have been more a street level. Street level sometimes is good because You know, we got the streets, we got the universities, we got the academia, and for many years with my depression and suicidalness, I was with one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries. I think if I go retrieve my books from the Bibliothèque et Archives Nationales, from the National Library of Quebec here in Montreal, near Berry-UQAM, I'm going to see that maybe 90% of all my books were related in some parts to geopolitics in any way, shape or form, probably related to 90+% were probably related to the world of geopolitics in any way, shape or form that they might have been. Of course, have that relations and the consequential beingness that their relation would have been similar, of course, to their books related in a way to geopolitics. I'm willing to bet, although I don't like to gamble, I'm willing to bet that 90% would have probably been in some way or form, whether politics, history, geography, finance, even religion, related to geopolitics. Because geopolitics, of course, is a mega field, is a whole universe, is a whole world, is a whole arena, is a whole area, is a whole array, is a whole universe in itself, eh? And that's what I do most. And of course, now I'm going to take into consequential meditation the realities of what, from the street level, somebody who consumes, of course, fentanyl. If you consume fentanyl, I'm going to turn my head left and right. If you consume fentanyl, always got to turn your head, you know, when you cross. Always when you cross the street, of course, gotta turn your head left or right, and of course that is something what you have, of course, to do in the consequential, of course, to be aware, because of course my brothers and sisters might cross the street there. So when you cross the street from the level to that level on that side, that is something when you gotta take into consideration the distance, because of course there you have a stop. So there you see you have a stop, but of course the stop is there, and of course the stop is on the side, and that is something consequential where you have, of course, the stop sign to be, of course, on the middle and on the left, and you turn your heads left or right because the brakes might malfunction. The brakes might malfunction. So if the brakes malfunction, you have, of course, a certain level. So you see, you have a few meters, a few yards. So consider that possibility when you cross the street. And in my head, I always calculate the possibility and the extension. And I saw my fellow citizen there with the cart, and if a car would have came, we were both at added risk, because my fellow citizens should have been more safe to go on the street with the cart, not where the cars go, because it's a one-way. So I was trying to assess his security and my security, and you know, that's just the public security aspect of where we are in the interdimensional aspects of our life, you know. And like I said to my fellow citizen, regardless of whether we like Trump personally or not, I would have voted for Biden, Kamala. But you know, being born in past lives, previous incarnations in the USA, 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man. Twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces, and of course, twice in... Yeah, you heard that correct. Just read George Patton through a glass darkly. I'm not only an artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and I'm always also a philosopher and a mystic, and of course I believe in reincarnations, and in the reincarnations that I believe are making me that now I hear the alarm. You know, it could be ambulance, it could be my brothers and sisters in blue, or not perfect, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, they're not perfect, boys and girls in blue. And like I said to my fellow citizen, it's not Carney that's fighting on the streets, you know. It's not Carney. It's not Carney. Carney is for me, and the king is absent. The king is absent. I don't know, Carney supposedly didn't, nothing personal against you, Uncle Carney, but from what I know, you got to confirm this with me, but in the past 10 years, he didn't even live in Canada. Mostly lived in the Bank of England, working in the Bank of England in banking and finance, economy. So all those aspects aside, I always say the king is absent. It's time for the Republic, and you know, my way best to fuse Canada and the United States, because my brothers and sisters in the United States, where I lived twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces, 156 years apart. Once I was born as a woman, and once I was born as a woman, and yeah, you get that 50-50 now, and got some German decor. That's a nice, interesting, I've never seen that before. I guess a little bit of advertising. I was a German in a past life as well, and many past lives, many incarnations, and here I gotta cross the street by looking left or right, and that is something which I gotta be doing. So this one always amazes me how it grew like little bubbles here. See, like the bubbles, I guess, Mother Nature, something with Mother Nature gotta see, together doing a little bit of that, and that's a little bit of that. Loving Mother Nature. Mother Nature always just discovering and looking, gazing at the beauties of these beautiful flowers. Sometimes it amazes me, how we have this great civilizational complex and great city here, Metropolis Island, Montreal, how of course they can be proficient, of course, to get on that range for the magnitude and the beauty of nature where we have, and the nature where we have, and the nature where we have together, the nature where we have, like that. So that is something which I gotta be doing, and the LOV, my brothers and sisters here in the North American Collective, it's always for the 63. Always for the 63, always for the 63, always for the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3. And then NORAD, the North American Collective, and the events today in geopolitics on this Labor Day. I gotta focus more on our internal workers, because just before I left, I was doing geopolitical analysis. I was supposed to leave it way earlier, but there were so many geopolitical events, especially the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which emerged from 1996 and of course established itself in 2001 and now has several countries which are willing to join, and they're kind of like in waiting, and there's 10 countries which are, of which China, Russia, India, Iran, which constitutes a mega population blocks, and you also have 4 stands, which the 4 stands, of course, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and the Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and another stan. You got 4 stans: Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Turkmenistan is not part of the SCO yet. Turkmenistan is not. So 4 of the 5 stans, you have the 5 ones. Those 4 were united with Russia and the Soviet Union, mind you. They were united with Russia and the Soviet Union. That is something which has to be conclusive and concluded about. And as I go marching to my second home, the mountain, that, yeah, they were actually united in the USSR. And now this new organization is, of course, meant, of course, to take it. They want to take it to the next level, I guess, to counter what they call Western influence and US-dominated hegemonic post-Cold War period rule. And of course, they have the ideas and, of course, the balances which, of course, they implement in all the directions where they are, of course, now to appellate and, of course, to structure themselves in a power where, of course, they have a block, and they're a military that is security, economic, and political, military, economic, and political. So do that. They have both military, economic, and political. Turn your head left and right before you cross the street. That is, of course, something which, of course, has to be taken note by NATO member countries, and by us, of course, as myself as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist who develops strategies for the North American Collective. Always for the North American Collective, we gotta be always in the attitude and always in the mindfulness that we are now challenged, but this challenge is also, I put it in parentheses because my theories, my initiatives, my philosophies are mostly for the 63, to fuse Canada and the United States into the Imperial Republican complex, and the NORAD, NATO complex, so NATO, North Atlantic Organization, but countries. And one of the little paradoxes is the question of Turkey, now they will to be called by a new name. The Turkish Republic is Turkey, the Turkey Republic. So there also they want to build some economic, social, commercial bridges in a way with the SCOs, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So we're gonna get back to that. I'm just gonna get a little bit to finish about Asperger's and autism. Again, gonna salute the firefighters, the butchers, the truckers, the welders, the plumbers, the electricians, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, the construction workers, the welders, daycare workers changing some diapers. It's Labor Day, so a lot of places are closed due to that Labor Day, you know. And here I got this says use the other trottoir. Thank you. I had to wait because you never know, you know. If you don't wait, and you gotta get that sign and get the stop, and sometimes people just, you know, don't press the accelerator. They press, of course, don't press the brake, they press the accelerator. So that is something which, of course, can happen. So that's why you always have to be mindful, of course, in the situation where we are now, where we're now in the public, you know. So just like you see my fellow citizens there, I took by the side because I decided that my senior citizen, fellow aunts, my great family here at the 63, with which I established a strong esprit de corps post 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And of course that is something we have to get doing on that, and we have to, of course, to apply in the circumstances where we are to get it on go, and we have to get it on the left and on the right, and of course interdicting that our passage and your passage is always something which we have, of course, to appellate in the spheres of our civilizational complex where we are in the public, and this adds to us as sovereign individual citizens, myself included, and them and there and all who are in the car as well, drivers and pedestrians are drivers as well, added responsibilities, added duties, added obligations in the public, such as turning the heads left and right when you cross the street, and doing a little bit of alleviance for others who are in a different position on the pedestrian, on the sidewalk, you know. Like if my fellow senior citizen, you know, has to walk with a tool, with a walker, it's called walker, then I have to, that's why I just did a half a circle and went to the left. And as you can see in my other videos, sometimes I do it when there's children and on the bike, and you know, coming towards me and coming towards us, and that's just something which I have to do. And of course with the autism, with Asperger's, is more different because we have clumsiness. So this clumsiness is, of course, something which is innate to many aspects, such as the characteristics, I don't use the word symptoms. So now I'm going to just discuss a little bit, 5-10 minutes on Asperger's, and I don't use the word symptoms. I use the word characteristics and traits. So these characteristics and traits make us different, make us weird, make us awkward, bizarre, but I don't require a lot of support. It's just that we Aspies have what's called special interests, right? And these special interests preoccupy our daily routine. We can study, learn, or be engaged with intensity, super concentration, super intensity, super concentration, super intensity, super concentration, super focus when we are involved in those activities, whatever it is. Flag spotted. I'm going to show mine because I don't know when I got this flag of Canada tatted on my arm, but when I see the Canadian flag, I say flag spotted and I show mine, so I always carry my flag. You can't tell me nothing, Uncle Carney. You know, it's the king is absent, and my philosophy is a philosopher theorist who's financially stressed, who was depressed, was suicidal, you know, was depressed, was suicidal, and who lives with this neurological, mental, divergent condition known as Asperger's. And I think that's so interesting enough, because I have these are kind of characteristic symptoms of retrograde amnesia, because I have trouble remembering my life prior to spring 2014. But spring 2014 is a long time ago. Spring 2014. Spring 2014 is a long time ago. That's 11 years and 4 months now. Spring 2014, I used to live still on the island of Montreal. That way, kilometers north, and in a moldy place, you know. It was a small moldy place on the ground, like a tight, small prison cell. I didn't even have a bathtub. Thankful that I have a bathtub now. I can take a bath for my soreness because I can't afford a massage therapy session. Friends with benefits only. Don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. You're 18 plus. You want to trade some massages? Then we're on. If not, just don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. You know, that's as simple as I guess can be to find a solution for Aspies, because we don't have a lot of friends. So that is my solution. Eh? Hey, look at that red cardinal. Oh wow, that's so rare. Look, red cardinal. Fly away, they fly away. This was I counted 4 seconds, almost 5 seconds. 4 seconds and 2/11ths of a second. And that is something which we gotta be, you know. So I counted on the go, and I counted on that go, and counted on that left, right, Z, you know. And that is something which you gotta be, you know, doing on that. And that's something which I live with, you know. Asperger's is just something which I live with, and sometimes memory comes back. But anyways, I lived in that moldy underground place, and small, moldy, very like a prison cell. I guess I served my time, eh? Maybe I served my time down there, and I guess sometimes you just gotta say I served my time, but in a way, I guess that's different from actually jail or prison. And you know, I wish on my brothers and sisters who lose their liberty for the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act, of course, to be implemented, of course, because we need you to build the 44 tunnels, and of course to build the 44 tunnels, and of course to do it on the ground, to be on the levels where we are here, you know, these beautiful flowers now, to be somebody who could bring so beautiful pink and white pink, more white than pink, but quite. I even got a scent as I was passing by those roses. I even got a beautiful scent. And that's just something where we got, and it's scented, you know. So that's what we got to get here. This one, also here. See, they have. This is another dangerous corner. But although they have a stop from there, always turn your heads left and right, left and right. So yeah, I used to live in that moldy place. It was small underground. It was like a tight prison cell. I mean, it wasn't really a prison cell, but I didn't even have a bathtub, and it was a small place. It was a small bathroom. The bathroom was so small. The shower was prison-esque, like a prison shower, you know. And I had a little. The kitchen was in the room. I didn't even have a kitchen, and I just love this moss, how it grew on top of the house. It's just quite nice, you know, just so nice there. I just love that. How greenery goes, eh? All the Mother Nature. Yeah, I like that. And just something I like, I enjoy. I enjoy it. So the situation, of course, awareness where we are, you know, I'm now gonna let the youth, I'm just gonna take a few steps and just get out of their way, because my security assessment was that it's better for me to just take 4 steps to the right, my right, and just let the children pass, you know, with the bikes, and just continue. That was my individual citizen security assessment, you know, rather than me continue on the pedestrian side. I said it's safer for me to just get out of the way, because I'm going to my second home, the mountain, and, you know, the mountain will be there, unless, maybe not, my mistress, the mountain, and whatever the case may be. So, and I was gonna go there, but there's children and family, and I don't wanna impede with their interfere with their biking, and maybe learning the bike, maybe for the first time, and how to pedal, and, you know, me with my aspiness and my androgynous marching dance moves coming in and barging in, and my backpack, you know, it's the children, the youth are innocent and safe, and that's the more important thing, I guess, you know, than my financial stress and my craving for a massage therapy session and my my retrograde amnesia. I joke, I said so many times I would try to take me out, that I saved a few lives since 2014 spring. I guess that's why I got saved, to save a few lives when a few accidents almost on the streets or other things. Maybe my friend, maybe he's gonna take into mind what I said about if he did shoot up, and maybe he's gonna stop shooting up, and maybe he's gonna change his life. And of course that is something what we have. And of course there's the flag spotted. Whenever I flag spotted, see, there's flag spotted there. I always pinpoint the flag, see, and the flag, and I always carry it on me, and that's always something which is nice, to see it along the way. And that is just something where we have to be. Another one, but that's smaller. Now we got the Quebec as well, atop there. So I gotta show mine. I have the Fleur de Lis also, but then you got both the Quebec and the other one. And that's just something which we have, of course, to appellate, and we have to get it on the do, and we have to get it on that left, right, and Z. And that's just something where we have to get doing, on the drill side, of course, in the circumstantial situation where we are now, in the awareness where we are, the life-affirming liberties and my individual sovereign liberty to be at balance with all other individual citizens in a safely, with liberty expressed. And of course it's kind of like it's my special interest, working out, training, exercising, fitness and geopolitics, so rock and roll. And I guess now I'm engaged in that trinity, and that looks like a coiled snake in there. So just now I'm gonna go a bit on Asperger's. It's first we have to say it's not a mental illness. I'm back to just to finalize, beautiful red and white, to finalize on memory. I have trouble remembering my life prior to spring 2014, but spring 2014, that's 11 years and 4 months. So that's a long time ago. I have a very good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Then after 11, it's kind of like a blackout. It's symptoms of amnesia, retrograde amnesia. So I have a good memory, and retrograde amnesia usually doesn't affect memory, linguistic memory, mathematical memory. It just affects memory from personal memories, like high school. And I have trouble, I just don't remember. Before 2014 is like a blackout. Maybe sometimes they come back. So high school, I did some college, high school, and I have a high school diploma, all those. Life before 2014, is something which I gotta be saying that it's the difficulty to. What is that? I'm gonna check it on. Acid house, maybe 9 to 3, something like that, I know, I think that's past date, so that is something which we have to live with, I guess. Sometimes it comes back. You can check, you can do hypnosis with stuff like that. So, anyways, whatever the case may be on that level of not remembering, it's just I remember being attacked by surprise, I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit like in the head a few times, hit my head on the concrete. A vicious surprise attack out of nowhere, a vicious surprise attack. I hit my head on the concrete, had a dislocated right arm, shoulder, and I don't like violence. I was bloodied up, and I survived, I was bloodied up, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So that is something which we have to be doing, Remember of that. Look at that. Just to have this water here, imagine all the workers. I always meditate how they were built, how they built this, to have water here. Imagine if we wouldn't have water here, if it wouldn't be for the workers who build it, the brains and the muscle, And this is all connected with another big system. So just to have this water is a big privilege here, I always meditate those who work to build it, we take for granted, We take all these for granted on a daily basis. Otherwise, we will be drinking from the river. But it's something. Oh yeah. So that is just something where we have to be aware of, be aware of, That is something which you have, of course, to meditate and, of course, to be. Now, this civilization is a privilege, Civilization is a privilege. Think about it, just having that water there, If you have the water to drink, now, of course, it's going to embellish and help me in my workout fitness. And all of us here who drink from that water, it's been built with brains and muscle. I mentioned the privilege of civilization because that was my thesis back in 2023 when, of course, I have to revise it, I have to redo it. It was, I think, 3 videos online, which I put 3 videos online vis-a-vis. You could check it out for yourself. And, of course, that is just something which you have, of course, to be mindful about. That civilization is a privilege, On here, we got a geopolitical statement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 blue and 1 black and gold. Black and gold and 4 blue and white. So that we're gonna get into that in a bit, but that's support for Quebec sovereignty movement. So that is a support for the Quebec sovereignty movement, which of course I always said, and I always said I would vote no. So I would vote no definitely, but we're gonna get back to that. So yeah, I survived a vicious surprise attack and got a few hits to the head, hit my head on the concrete, was bloodied up, and I had a dislocated right arm, was put on some meds. So I was put on some medication, and I don't know exactly. I have to retrieve at the Jewish General Hospital, So I don't like violence. I'm just hypervigilant. My hypervigilance is always consequentially imprudence with all the characteristics, of course, where we are, and always play defense. I don't like violence myself. I don't like violence at all. Actually, even. You know what it is for my boxing match with Donald Trump because it's a Dragon versus Trump. But sometimes force. Aggression has to be channeled. That's why I say you have gloves and you have a sports ring. You can put with gloves and you can play football. You have aggression. Some people have more aggression, more XYZ. You got to channel it, sublimate it, just like sexuality. I'm not somebody who's sexually frustrated, but if you're black, you're white or black, you're a man, you're a woman, I played that double trouble, black, white, and rainbow, and friends with benefits only, 18 plus, eh? You're gonna get carded just like going to a club, just like going to get some cigarettes, or going to get some booze, and going to get some of that liquor, That is just something which it is, man, and I'm pretty joyous now, I have a big smile. Is when I survive COVID, I take a carpe diem every day, and I'm just financially stressed, That's my only stress right now, but a healthy masturbation. Gotta check so there's nobody. Healthy masturbation. I didn't masturbate today, but last night I did a little bit of that, and I'm not sexually frustrated. If I would be, I would discuss it because I discuss my scars. On my little clit androgynous little rocket, because I'm that 50-50, and now my brain, how it switches, of course, now that I see this point event in my life where I cross this highway, I meditate. I gotta salute the truckers carrying the bacon, the cheese, the lettuce, romaine lettuce, and the bread, and they're going east, west, north, south. See, this one's going north and south. I'm going east, right? That's north, and that's south to the border of the USA, the 50. Always for the 63. Labor Day, both in Canada and United States. Today it's Canadian United States Workers Unite event in the NACWP, North American Collective Workers Party. And see, because I have Asperger's, now that point event of me crossing that highway, I cannot but it's a kind of an automatic. Think about like a software who kind of does those things 24/7 with each point event that I traverse on these boots, that of course I interject and I put them on the go, and I meditate of course on all the trucks that are now carrying of course bacon, cheese, lettuce, bread, romaine, or whatever they're carrying. And I gotta salute the firefighters. Please be in his meanness, finance the firefighter a massage therapy session. Firefighters deserve to be massaged more than me. Me, I can take a bath, but firefighters, the sanitation workers and the butchers, the sanitation workers, and they deserve it. They deserve more than yours truly, They deserve more than yours truly to be massaged. firefighters, and with that, of course, the butchers, and those are gonna pick up the garbage. The recycling was picked earlier. Twice, 3 services a week, recycling service. It already passed this morning in my neighborhood. Now this afternoon, evening, we get of course those who pick up the garbage, and then we're gonna get on the compost, Compost is Thursday, and I worked a few months, like 4 months on the compost project, and that is when on the compost projects which I worked, I worked on the compost project. 2018, 2019, I brought it kind of in and take great joy. I had lots of employments, work opportunities that I had, but the problem with Asperger's is maintaining the work, And now I'm gonna get to finalize on Asperger's for 10 minutes, and I guess whatever caused, my memory loss. I don't know if I was a junkie. He discussed, my fellow friend at the beginning of the video discussed that he did some drugs, and maybe before 2014, spring 2014, like before April 2014, March, like February 2014, because my memory blocks, like before like February 2014, February 2014, March 2014, like spring 2014, I'm gonna say. Before that, my memory was like a blackout. Like my life, I lived here on the island in the moldy place, and I don't know if maybe I was doing drugs. Maybe I was a junkie, maybe I was an alcoholic. That sometimes, maybe I was doing drugs and alcohol for a few years, and maybe that's why my sometimes memory loss can be caused by a few years of heavy drug and heavy alcoholism. Memory loss it can happen, retrograde amnesia can happen due to that. Or, like I remember being attacked by surprise in these unspeakable deeds and other attacks which I lived at night. It's just, whatever the case, I live with these scars, so whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be on the go, and whatever the scars are, it's something which, of course, we have to meditate upon, the life-affirming situations where we are now. That is something where this is a beauty. This is a beauty. So this beauty right here, I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house right here. We could split that, or by the river best, by the river best, and this is quite beautiful too, black and yellow like that. So memory loss aside, and living, financial stress, because it's mostly due to the Asperger's condition, and mostly due to the Asperger condition where we got, to get it on the go with that. And here we gotta turn our heads left and right. Always turn your heads left and right, You never know, the brakes malfunction, The brakes malfunction and the electricity malfunctions, and that is just something which, of course, we have to appellate, and of course you have to be industrious about to do. Take double diligence and take your seconds to take the time to turn your heads left and right, because you never know, for extra prudence, it is something which you have to do it, and I have to do it for myself and for others as well. So Asperger's is not a mental illness, it is a neurological mental divergent condition. That's what we have to say. It's not a disease, Not a disease. I remember when I was working a few years ago, and I had a few jobs in our past years, but people were whispering, it's a disease, and I guess that's in reference to me, but no, it's not a disease, it's just our brains have these mutations, right? So due to these mutations, we see the world differently, we see the world differently. So we see the world differently at a microscopic level. They're not outwardly protruded outside of the exterior of the brain, they're not internally, they're not internally. They're not outwardly protruding, they're internal microscopic at the nano level. They're the microscopic nano level, so they're not bulging out of the exterior of the cranium nor of the brain, right? That's where those mutations are at the microscopic internal brain level, a few. And the causes for Asperger's, also known as HFA, are inconclusive. So we don't really know. We don't really know if it's hereditary. It could be a mixture of hereditary, biological, hereditary, or it could be a mixture of hereditary or biological factors. So the cause of Asperger's is inconclusive. It's not exactly known, the cause. It's not established per se. It could be a combination of these factors. So these factors can be biological, hereditary, or of course they can be both. Genetic, hereditary, or it could be environmental factors as well. So the environment. So we see the world differently. Sometimes I give the example of how it can be that certain things are just weird for Asperger's. How our brains, for example, can go into certain mathematics. For example, the mathematics would be to calculate, for example, now that I'm marching, to try to calculate the area of these, what seems that they're actually, they're more like square, right? They're more square. So it would be to try to take this a side times the side, because a square is, any side is equal, the four sides are equal, thus it's side to the power of 2 times, I can go by there, times each other, right? Or for example, another example, yeah, it will be here, see? So this side times that side will give you the area, right? Will give you the area of this. Well, it seems like it's a square, right? But this one doesn't seem like it's co-equivalent to that one, but this one also seems more rectangular. So see, but this one seems way small. This is a rectangular for sure. So this one is a rectangular for sure. This one has 2 different sides. So that side times that side. So if this one is, let's say, 4 and that one's 2, then it will be 4 times 2, right? But it's square. You have to square it. So 4 times 2 is 8. So that would be 8 yards square. 8 yards square. Because when it's a surface, if it's an area, the area, A in mathematics, area. If it's a area, because we're calculating the time, we're not calculating the perimeter. The perimeter would be to add them all together. So for example, if the perimeter would be 4, and 2, that's 4 plus 2, and that's of course 12, right? Because that's 12. 4 plus 6, and plus 4, that's of course 10, and plus 2, that's 12. So the perimeter would be 12 meters. We don't square those. Yards. Well, let's say yards, because it doesn't look like it's... No, it's not 2 meters really, but we can estimate, right? We can estimate. So it's of course estimations, because I don't have the measurement. I don't have the measuring tool to actually measure it, but of course it would be in the head, and this would be kind of constantly happening with certain things. For example, here, these ones as well, try to calculate things such as the perimeter or area. Like I give examples in many of my past videos, that would be really, really weird. Or focusing on certain details. For example, this pole here, focusing on that number, 1475, and what's that number have to do with the pole, right? Like, we'll try to figure out the motive for that number to be there. So this is aspiness one-on-one. Sometimes we focus on details which are weird, the details which are weird, the details which are weird, and the certain aspects of the detail, but of course they're weird. Also, see, that's 1474, and that one 75. So -1, that means that if we go east, because now we're heading east, that one should be 1473, right? So that one should be 1473. But we have on both sides. So that's the enumeration then. That's the count of the poles. The pole number, but starting where though? Exactly, see? What did I say? 1473. So now we know the answer. Mathematically, right? And I believe that one could be 17, it should be 1742. It should be 1472. But that one also has a number there. 1472. Does that one have a number? Yeah. So we're going to go check. Okay, so this one's 1472, see? So this has a number, 1472. If you look here, so that's we figure out now what that number means. That's 1472. The other one's 1473, 1474, 1475, right? So that means that they're decreasing, right? So I bet you that the other one's 1471. So this is mathematics. See? So basically what they did is classified all the poles in numbers. So if you're going east, they're decreasing. If you're going west, they're going below, right? They're increasing. See? Look at that. Yeah, what did I say? 1471. See? 1471. So it goes up, up. So that means that there's 1,400 of them all around. But all around where? Because that one is in the corner, then we have to establish a perimeter of going east or west, right? If we're going east and west. So that, of course, perimeter of going east and west is something which we have, of course, to confluence on the go. Okay, this one's missing. But it might have been there before, you know? It might have been there. You don't want. Let's see where the other one is. Oh, the other one's also there. So that's a lot of poles. Think about it. But whatever the parameter is, wherever it is, the parameter, whatever is the parameter, it means that it's decreasing as we go east. Yeah, 1467. But this one took a jump of 2. So that means that that one was counted there in the corner, and that one's another count, right? So that means that we count them on the side. Let me cross the street here and go check out that pole. Turn your heads left to right, left to right, left to right. Beautiful garden here. Let's see this one. Oh yeah, 1467 and 1466, see? Yeah. So they're going down. There's a lot of them though. And that one should be 1465, right? Beautiful flowers here. Beautiful flowers. $14.65. See? 1465. But it could be that it starts at number 1000, and it could be, so it's not necessarily that there's so many. So they're going down numerology in number wise, right? They're decreasing. That we can say for certain. The other things we can't say for certain is where was the number started, right? Let's go. I'm excited now. My smile, my joy. This is happiness, you know. So now I'm kind of smiling, if you can see. Oh, this is just happiness, you know. Yeah, see? 1464, but that's not necessarily that because they are at 1464 though, right? It's not necessarily, you can see downtown. No, that's not really downtown, but it's south, you know. So of course you can go down by that side. We're gonna go there, you know. We're gonna go here. See? Look at that. Oh, now it's a big jump now. 1440. So 25 went off right away. Because it's 1466 we saw. 26, 1440. And that was 1446. So the difference is 26. The number just, I didn't even have to do it. It's just mathematically the numbers pop into my brain, you know, just mathematics, like that subtraction just pops into my brain I don't even have to do it by calculator or nothing like that. Just don't ask me how. In high school, I don't remember. I don't remember my life prior to spring 2014. But see, now it goes from 40 to 39. But there's a jump there. So see, that's what I said. There's not exactly that's the number. There's something which we don't really know. It's missing. Either those 26 are roundabout and they go roundabout below and above, and it's the specific type of poles, because these are specifically how they are, these ones. See, they're kind of unique, I'm gonna say, in the manner that they're constructed. So this is aspiness one-on-one. See, the obsession with that detail, but I told you from the beginning that's what I subtracted that detail is that there's a classification of the poles. So now it's going down again. So they're classified. There's a new mathematical reason, a motive. So, but see, now we're lacking some information, because how come it's jumping by 26? So how come it's jumping by 26? Because there's a big jump by 26. So the units of account don't add up in sequence. It's not following. So maybe because those other numbers are either north or south, because now we're going east-west. Now we're going east. Yeah, see, it's following down again. It's following 37, 38, 39, 40. That's 4 numbers. 40, 39, 38, 37. Right, those 4, 4, 4. And those are going to be the last ones we're going to check. But this is just to show you how Asperger brain is different, and I might meet somebody here who say, I've been living in Westmount since 1963, beautiful garden, or since more than 44 years, or since more than 40 years, since 1980, 1984, 1989, 1996, and I never noticed, I never noticed that there were numbers on the poles. It could be, and maybe somebody with Asperger's, he says, oh yeah, I noticed and I actually did what you did. Somebody with Asperger's might have done what I did, because that's just how we are. And yeah, it's going down again, see, from 37 to 36. So it's going down as we go east. So, because if we go the other way, if we start going the other way, they're increasing, right? Now they're decreasing, the numbers are decreasing, and now their number are decreasing because we're going east. If we were be going west, the numbers would be vice versa. Now they're decreasing, and if we would be going the other way, there would be beautiful flowers here. Just love this one. Just love this garden. Just love it. Just gorgeous. Thank you, public workers. I really appreciate it. I'm sure it's not just me, but I guess I'm gonna have to verbalize it on this marching rock and roll vlog. One of my many hundreds and thousands of my rock and roll vlogs as I go, of course, to get on the left and on the right, always conclusively in the internal of the well-being and the of myself as an individual sovereign citizen and somebody else, and I guess those we're gonna kind of finalize with those poles. Although, see, there's another pole that's identical there. So that one might also have a number that is in between. So if that one was 36, if that one's 35, that means that this one should be 34, right? 1434 or 35 or 33 even. Let's see. One of those, it has to be one of those. 1433, 34, 33, yeah. So yeah, because it's decreasing, and if you would have went the other way, started the other way, it would have been increasing. So the numbers are decreasing, and if you would have been the other way, the numbers would have been decreasing. Now the numbers are decreasing, mathematical orderly, and if you would have went out west, if it would have went west, they would have been increasing, right? It's inverse relations. what we call mathematically an inverse relationship. Mathematically, it's called an inverse relationship. That's mathematical terminology. It's 32. This should be. Oh no, this one jumps from 33 to 1425. So that's 5 and 8. Or maybe it's that one there. That's the missing one, but it seems like many more are missing. So it jumps again. See, that's what I said. And now that we take a turn, maybe they're the ones on the side. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one jumps a lot. 13 again. 13, 12. See? So maybe that's why there's some jumps, because they're also north and south, not only east and west. And that's just Aspie weirdness for you, one-on-one. Asperger's one-on-one lesson for other Aspies who said, yeah, we get you. We know exactly what you mean, what you did. You're an Aspie, you know, you have Asperger's and you're different, and you have to work with the fellow 99.99%ers who are neurotypicals and whose brains don't work the same as our brains do, and we have to build those bridges, whether small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. So within those 4 categories of bridges, small, medium, large, extra large, just like when you order a coffee, you might order a small coffee, medium-sized coffee, large coffee, or extra large coffee. So you might order some of those and some of those coffees, or it could be fries as well. In a fast food restaurant, you could order just like that. We have to also build bridges, you know. So we have to build those bridges. We have to build those bridges. We have to build those bridges, you know. So we have to build those bridges consequently, and in the manner, of course, where we are to get on the XYZ now, and that is something which we have to be doing and not, and that is just something where we have to live, you know. There's neurodivergence within the majority of your world, but it's our world, right? But within the build-up of the majority of the world, workplaces especially, is made for you, the vast majority of neurotypicals, the 99%, the systems of workplace and the work environment, and beautiful garden here. I just love it. The bright colors just quadruple my smile right there, and that is just something which we have, of course, to do, and we have, of course, to appellate in the integrity of our well-being, and we have, of course, to do now, and we have, of course, to appellate in all our domains, and that is something which we have, of course, to get doing, you know, and the life-affirming matters where we are now in these tough economic, financial, commercial, geopolitical times. And I'm gonna spend 5 more minutes on Asperger's, and then we're gonna go into my kingdom, and which is geopolitics. Aspies, we are different, and we have special interests. We also have, myself included, these routines. We have these ritual-like routines, which can seem very bizarre, odd, and we repeat. We do things ritualistically in a routine manner, and have been doing so for years and years and years and years. I mean, my special interest probably was geopolitics for many decades, because I even have a document from high school where I was supposed to go to Kingston Military College. I have a good reference letter from high school, but that's from 22 years ago, 2003. We're 2025. So supposedly I wanted to go to Kingston Military College, and I guess I didn't get to go, but nonetheless I developed independently military defense strategies, which are co-equivalent, of course, to the naturalness, of course, where we are. That is something which to getting on the go and getting on the now, something which we have, of course, to formulate in all the positions where we are now to get it done. That is something where we have to apply now in all the positions where we are to be mindful of those theorizings, and that the theorizing, and the theories have to be put into practice, and of course have to be put into practice and application, of course, rather than just verbally philosophizing them. You gotta balance them with facta non verba, you know. We gotta balance them with facta non verba, you know. So that facta non verba, of course, is something which, of course, we have to do it on the go, you know, to get it on now. So here's 1273, so that went down a little bit, man. So that went down a lot by 156, eh? So that is just the Asperger brain, you know. That is just the Asperger brain, you know. Just a little bit of that, and that is something which I gotta do it on the level of things where we are, you know, to get it on the go. That is something where we have, of course, to. What are you looking for here? Hoofd. Police. Hoofd. Police.
Like even like the word don't change.
What? So that is, of course, the level, of course, of the life-affirming matters where we are, you know, to get it on the go now, and just, of course, this difference of the brain and how, of course, the brain works and functions is, of course, that we are, there are propositions where we are different, and some people pick up on that right away, especially in the workplace. Now, just to finalize and to make a summary is, of course, we have to state, of course, that it's not a mental illness, it's not an illness, it's not a disease, you know. It's not a disease, and we have, of course, to have consequently, and of course, inside the life-affirming actions where we are, of course, all of us doings and all of us doing on the go and getting on that doing, and from the practice, we have to practice, of course. We have to practice, of course, the fundamental management of these characteristics. Because there's no medication. You cannot medicate Asperger's because it's not a disease. So what we have, of course, to do, we have, of course, to medicate. Not to medicate, but we have to manage. So there's no medication. You can't medicate because it's not a disease. With others, diseases, you medicate. You know, with other diseases, you medicate. When it's a disease, you medicate. But since Asperger's HFA, it's a neurological mental divergent condition, you cannot medicate because there's no chemical medications for it, but you have to manage. I have to manage the characteristics, which can sometimes be, for example, repetition of words, phrases, sentences, echolalia also. That's can happen that an aspie, myself included, might repeat the same sentence word verbatim per verbatim what somebody else has said, or might get, of course, too close. Might get, of course, too close in conversation, of course. For somebody, might get too close. For example, the personal space, right? It's 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards sometimes, you know, a certain distance. An aspie might get within 4 inches, so close, within 4 inches of somebody. It's just because these social non-written rules it's more difficult for us Aspies. We have to be told, hey, you're too close, can you take a step back? And yeah, sure, oh yeah, step back, yeah, no problem. We have to be verbalized, we have to be vocalized, we have to be told more directly. And ourselves, sometimes we are more direct and straightforward, more direct and straightforward, more direct and straightforward, so we are more direct and straightforward sometimes ourselves. We are more direct and straightforward, ourselves we are, and that can cause offense, that can cause trouble, that can cause problems, that can cause hurt unwillingly. It's not because we will to, because we have the volition and intention. It's just because that's sometimes how we are. We might respond very directly, very direct. We might seem rude or offensive and direct. It's not because we mean to. Just if you have this from my perspective of an Aspie, just let us know, and we would be acquiescent, of course, to do it, and of course to appellate, and of course to do the necessary work to retrieve and reprimand and do some justice and do some, to work for those bridges of understanding. Hey, beautiful. See how nice it is there, the colorful flowers. And this one here looks like a coil snake, see? With a head of the snake there. Kind of looks like there's a big anaconda stuck in there. So that is just how Aspies we differ, and we have these special interests, and which preoccupy our daily habits and routines, of course, to the point, of course, of habits and routines, of course, which preoccupy our daily habits and routines with intensity, super focus, super concentration, super intensity, super focus, super concentration, super dedication and engagement in those special interests. The word that is used for Aspies, for people with Asperger's like myself, is the word obsessive interest, but I don't use the word obsessive. Many Aspies prefer not to, because an obsession is more for a neurotypical. For us, when we're engaged with intensity, super concentration, super focus, super engagement, super dedication, that is just our natural. That is our natural state. It's not an obsessive state. That's where I counterpoise and counterbalance that is an Aspie's natural state. To spend hours and hours and hours and hours a day being engaged with super intensity, super concentration, super dedication, super focus in those things which of course we are of interest and which of course preoccupy our activities. For me, my holy trinity is sports and fitness. Sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, but I love all sports. Women's sports, dancing is number one for me. Marching, second, and then boxing, gridiron, North American football, and basketball, hockey, men's and women's hockey, and all sorts of other sports activities is my special interest, and rock and roll and geopolitics. So sports and fitness, rock and roll, geopolitics. Geopolitics, rock and roll, sports and fitness. Rock and roll, geopolitics, sports and fitness. Sports and fitness, geopolitics, rock and roll. Rock and roll, geopolitics, sports and fitness. And that's where I spend most of my hours and hours and hours a day doing, And I am a great artist, because not necessarily vocal, but I write rock and roll songs on the daily, and I guess I could do a little bit of that rap, I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house here in the Ramsey. If not, of course, beautiful flowers what we got there, beautiful flowers, and we got on that side there. And of course, we got that house there. We got close to the river, where my anonymous friend will be best down close by the river in the house. And, I'm grateful for what I have now. I used to live in that moldy place, and I gotta be grateful, thankful. My rent's paid my rent today. I paid it. Paid my electricity bill last Friday, and the only thing left for me, this is gonna be salvaged. Oh yeah, save that. Oh, another one. Thanks. Quite one for me, one for my friend, but I'm gonna let her know that I found it it has to be washed because it was dirty. And I'm grateful for that. So that is just a beauty there. That is an Aspie beauty, and then it's just where we are now. So just that is just how we are and how we view the world differently, and we have those interests where they preoccupy our habits, preoccupy our daily routines, and they just take of our time, they preoccupy our whole life internally and in a manner that is outwardly seeming as a what's called an obsession. But of course, an obsession I don't use the word obsessive again, because an obsession is more for somebody who's a neurotypical, while an aspie, of course, we have special interests, and those special interests preoccupy our whole daily routines and habits, and yeah, that's just how we are. And I really going up the mountain now. Holy moly, I gotta find a bush because I am about to pee myself. If not, I'm about to pee myself. So sorry, but I gotta go. I can't hold it anymore. I tried. I hope nobody comes. I just here by the garden, I was gonna let it burst all over me, and I can't hold it. Sorry, fellow citizens. I was holding for like 4 minutes, and it's something which I couldn't hold it anymore. My apologies to fellow citizens. Sometimes you just gotta go when you gotta go. And yeah, I didn't damage anything. I'll go by the bushes. Oh yeah, I wanted to pause, but yeah, I was in a corner. Please don't leave trash there. Don't leave trash. Bottles. I think they did more damage than me. Hey, with the bottles there. And, I guess I can pick them up to counterbalance, pick up the bottle, because what if a child comes there and this has to be recycled. So what if a child comes there and breaks it and plays with it? And I guess that's more of a problem than me. Couldn't be able to hold and had to let my little clit dick go. Dick clit, and I just couldn't hold it, So I wanted to hold it up in the forest and the mountain, but I was gonna pee all over me. So you saw those rocks, you saw this bottle could be taken by a child and running and youth, so just recycle it. So I guess I counterbalanced it, Balanced. So now we're gonna go into the world of geopolitics, just geopolitics. And just to finalize on Asperger's, I'm gonna go four more minutes on Asperger's, then we're gonna close it down. So it's not a mental illness. I'm gonna put my belt back on. I'll put my belt back on. Put my belt back on. Beautiful, eh? So that's why I use the word special interest, not obsessive interest, because the word obsessive itself is more from a neurotypical perspective, how you view the world and your engagement with certain topics and subjects. When you're super intense, super dedicated, it is that you have these obsessions. While Asperger's, of course, it's a more natural state. So me, when I spend 4, 5, 6 hours, even last night, I spent like 6 hours, I realized I was analyzing the discourses of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Modi, and everything around the different news outlets from Canada, from Quebec, from the US, on the left, on the right, and in the center, and even from India, and from the China perspective, and from the European perspective, and from the Mexican perspective. Look at those beauties. tiny, tiny ones. They're tiny mushrooms. Tiny mushrooms, so tiny. I saw them blurred. I was prescribed some glasses, but I'm not gonna get those glasses because financially stressed. So it's special interest, not obsessive. But yes, it could seem like, wow, you just super focused. What are you doing? Looking and just, if somebody would watch me, you know what I watch on TV for a few hours, and we see you're just watching news and geopolitics and reference. This one also has to be recycled. This one also, because again, a child might pass and, you know, might damage here, you know. So that's just, don't leave it there, you know. So just recycle it, and I have to disinfect my hands, I guess, when I get at the top, and have a disinfectant myself, you know. Have a disinfectant, but I like to have gloves because I don't know, you know, there's microbes, bacteria, germs, and I always, of course, call on all, please, keep the protocols, the hygienic protocols of COVID, you know. Super important, you know. COVID was pretty hardcore for me, you know. Pretty hardcore. I thought I was gonna die, you know. Thought I was gonna die. COVID, I thought I was gonna die when I had COVID. It was like, you know, it was like death, pestilence, and disease. I always say it was like death, pestilence, and disease. But of course, what I mean to say is that I was struck hardcore, you know, and I thought I was gonna die. But I survived COVID. I got triple vaxxed. And I try to keep the COVID protocols, hygienic protocols of COVID, of regular disinfectant. I open carry my disinfectant. As a matter of fact, I have, of course, what I have to do is actually I have to fill it up. So to finalize on Asperger's, one of the most important things is that it's not a disease, that there's these mutations of the brain, the causes are inconclusive, we don't know for sure. Although, according to the ABC in the United States news outlets, supposedly it's even an evolutionary process. Now, I don't know about that because I suffer struggle being depressed and suicidal, and of course I have to address, before I conclude, the three main problems for Aspies. We have three main problems. Lack of friends. We don't have a lot of friends. It's hard for us to maintain friendships because we're different, and Aspies were different from you, the 99%. For me, the solution is pledge your allegiance. Our family, your friends with benefits only, 18 plus. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. 18 plus. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Friends with benefits. Recycle, and if I look there's gonna be some things that have to go into recycling, and that has to go into recycling, you know. So of course, friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Pretty simple, I guess. Lack of or keeping jobs and regular long-term employment, difficulty in long-term employment and keeping jobs. I had many jobs in the past 10 years. If I check, you know, I had many jobs, sometimes even a year. Sometimes they last 4 months, 3 months, a few weeks, a few days, a few weeks, 4 months, 3 months, 3 months, 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, and a few months, because a few days even, a few weeks, a few months. And that is a problem for Aspies, maintaining long-term employment, because we're different, right? So things like gossip and socializing, people can notice the difference in how we have these more difficulty, they're not really disabilities. We're less able in social communication, and the way we socialize and communicate is different, you know, than neurotypicals. And sometimes we might be direct and straightforward, and that might cause some problems, you know. So that might cause some problems. And it's just how our brain is made different, you know. And high depression and suicidal rates. I lived there, I was depressed, I was suicidal. What got me out of being depressed and suicidal was crossing Canada coast to coast in 2017. I crossed Canada coast to coast. My anonymous friend, in August, we went to Halifax, correction. In 2017, August, we went, of course, in August 2017, we went in the British Columbia, Vancouver, and in September, mid-September, We went Halifax, Nova Scotia by bus, 3.5 days by bus. First was 3.5 days by bus when we went in August 2017 to BC, British Columbia. So, and then in September we went by train. We went by train, you know. We went by train, you know. We went by train. So that being said, in 2017, I crossed Canada coast to coast, coast to coast. So that event made me come out of my depression. Was depressed and suicidal, and that is something what I have to say, you know, that changed my whole life. That changed my whole life, you know. That changed my whole life. Really changed my whole life, because if not, I would have been dead, you know. I would have probably been dead, you know. I would have probably taken my life. So that made me establish a strong esprit de corps, you know, with my fellow Canadians. And that is something which we gotta do, and which we gotta, of course, discuss, because I am calling for the Imperial tourism, the Imperial tourist activities to be financed, and it did me so much good in 2017. It's celebrating 8 years. I got the tickets, auctioning them for a man. I got the bus tickets, and I got the train tickets. By train it was 25 hours and 44 minutes. So more than a day. And 3.5 days, it took us from Montreal to Vancouver by bus. 3.5 days. It was a long bus ride, but we switched buses several times. I think 11 different buses totally. From Montreal, then we switched in Ottawa, then we switched again in Thunder Bay. Ontario, we switched like twice or three times, at least twice. Ottawa and Thunder Bay, I gotta check on the tickets for sure. But whatever the case may be, we switched a few times, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta go, you know. For the left, for the right, and for the Z, and that is something which we gotta be doing, and gotta be, of course, meditating on the appellations. That's something which, of course, we gotta be mindful of, all the dictums and all the life-affirming values which we have, a great country to visit and traverse, and of course all who come to join us, you know, in the North American Collective are, of course, to be appellated and, of course, be reminded by mass financing tourism, of course, that we have this great country of ours, along with the 63, the Collective, where we have, of course, to be in the dominions where we are now. So all the event, so the event, of course, of crossing Canada, coast to coast, was a major event in my life. Crossing Canada, coast to coast, was a major event in my life. It completely changed my life in 2017. So yeah, I was depressed and suicidal, but here I am, joyous, financially stressed, but paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, and got that go, and got those things where we are now, you know, to be, well, wild grapes. Got some wild grapes here. Let's take these ones look the ripest. Out of nowhere, I didn't even know there was. Or maybe, I think last time I took grapes here was in the evening, like 7-8 years ago. Wow, that's been that long. 7-8 years ago since I had grapes from these. These are grapes, but those are not grapes though, eh? These are grapes. So these you can have. So wild grapes. Wild grapes, otherwise they're going to waste. You see me in my past videos, I do movies, but these are not grapes. So these are grapes, not the other ones. It's been years and years and years I haven't taken grapes from that. Yeah, these, don't confuse them, eh? Don't confuse them. These are not grapes. These black ones, the blue ones are, the dark blue are grapes. These are grapes. The other ones are not wild grapes. So yeah, crossing Canada coast to coast made me come out of my depression. I was depressed, suicidal, and for Aspies, 9 times the depression and suicidal rate stands at 9 times. What's really alarming, and we really got to work on, is You know that for Asperger's, people like myself who have this neurological mental divergent condition known as HFA, high functioning autism, the unemployment rate stands at 80%. 80%, I said. Look at that beautiful skyscrapers there. 80%. 80%, you know. 80%. That's 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. It's even more than 80%. 80%, you know. More than 80%, you know. So that's just what it is. 80% is very high. Very high. Here we're gonna go. Actually, we're gonna go by here, you know. So 80% is very high. We're gonna let that main out now. Yeah. Oh yeah, that feels good. Here's Mother Nature, my mistress. Not just mine, but got these beauties here. Look at these veins. I always love when I come here. Dragoness Priestess. That's just how we rock and roll. That is just that is just what we are. That is just where we are now. What a beautiful place. Just love coming here, you know. Just don't pollute. Don't pollute. Don't leave trash. Don't leave garbage. Don't leave cans. Don't leave anything which can of course be used. In a detrimental manner for the flora and the fauna, because we got that flora and the fauna in the Appalachians. That we got lots and lots of flora, and we got chipmunks, and we got rabbits, and we got chipmunks, and we got rabbits, I got raccoons, and we got lots of flora. So yeah, Asperger's, it is what it is, and there's no medication. I have to live with the characteristics, and living with those characteristics make us of course in the way where we are to be now living. And here we're gonna cross from that side to the other side, and here's the majority of the citizens come here, you know, and they get knowing here and get acquainted with the mountain. So yeah, high unemployment rate stands at 80%. That's 4 out of 5, you know. 4 out of 5. That's a lot, you know. Four out of 5, you know. That's just the Appalachian, you know. That's just what we have here. And 4 out of 5 is 8 out of 10. It's more than 80%. So that is totally unacceptable. And we have our strengths, you know. We have our characteristics, and that is something which we have. That is just something which we have. the characteristics and all the strangeness which we have, of course, to get it on the do and get it on the go now, you know. So, yeah, live with my scars, live with my joy, financial stress. There's just something which we have. And of course, that is just something we have to live with, and we have to live on that. So that is just something what we got, and that is just something what we got, you know, to get it on the go and just meditate on all the beauties of this nature, you know, where we are, this naturalness of this life here, you know, and that we are now in the plurality of our life-affirming situations where we are to get it on the go, you know. Fragile. What's it, Les? What's it? So that is just how we live, you know. That's just how we live, you know, in a situational aspect, you know, to get on that go. And that's just something what we have to do, you know. Just have to love sometimes, you know, and increasing actions, you know, of goodness and kindness, you know, and increasing in acts of goodness and kindness, you know, is something what we have, and that is just something that we do, you know, in the life-affirming manners where we are to get on the go, you know. And there's all that situational complexities where, of course, have to be illuminated on the go now, to be now, and just to live now in all the situational awareness of our difference, you know, of our aspiness where we are now, and in positioning ourselves to build those bridges, whether they're, you know, small bridges and medium-sized bridges, or whatever the bridges are that we build together. Where are those four categories? Interjecting, and of course, interjecting in those building of those categories which we are now, suffluent and affluent, and of course the volition, you know, because we live together, and I have no antagonistic feelings, you know, resentful antagonistic feelings versus the counterpoise to you, the neurotypicals. It's just we have to build the bridges, and we gotta do it, and it takes a reciprocal effort for me, for you, for us together to build those bridges with a small, medium, large, or extra large, because we gotta build those bridges between us, neurodivergence, the less than 1%, and you neurotypicals who view the world in a way, and we view the world differently, and we can have joy, work, business, and Aspies can contribute tremendously in certain things. And I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend, who wasn't my friend because of the money, for gifting me two books on Asperger's actually 2 books on autism, and also there's chapters on Asperger's. One specifically was loaned 4 times, and was loaned 4 times, and of course that loan, of course, was loaned from the library, and of course it was 4 different times, and I read it, and I have to recommend it because it opened my eyes vis-a-vis my difference and how I can be also vulnerable, as many Aspies, people like myself with Asperger's, high functioning autism, can be vulnerable due to our difficulty in social interactions, understanding social cues, understanding social cues and the social dynamics when we, of course, discuss in the interactions and we verbose that we can be sensitive and we can be vulnerable to XYZ, ABCD attacks or sabotage or all these little things which can happen, of course, to be so. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome Appreciating Asperger's syndrome is a book that I recommend for neurotypicals and neurodivergence nonetheless. And yeah, that is something I have to be on the conducive side to getting on the go now, so yeah, that gives me a little bit of hope, see people a little bit of holding hands and loving, because it's not all about the money, and that gives me a bit of HOP, see people some of that hope, for the free world, because if somebody not making love today, then you never know, man. Nuclear war can start any minute, eh? China might invade Taiwan, and now I'm gonna go into geopolitics because I saw some loving, and I gotta get some of that loving too. Friends with benefits only for me. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. I'm gonna go into what I know, rock and roll, geopolitics. Let's rock and roll a bit. So we're gonna start that we're gonna go back in time, We're gonna go back in time, to October. We're gonna go back in time to October. Laternos. Iisus judeus. I priavo. Rabem. Sclaves. So that is something where we have, of course, to be in the conclusiveness, of course, where we are now, of course, to do in the left and the right, and to get it on the go. And that is something which we're gonna do, to get on the go. And that is something we're gonna get and do, for the consequential appellation of where we are now, to get it on the go and getting on the left, right, head, to getting on the situational awareness of where we are now. So that is just So that is, of course, where we are now. Je pense qu'on I think they got the message. So that is the consequential affirmative where we're gonna go. Well, we are now. HYDRATE. Reach. I love this one, this is good. Coming to a city near you. Sheets. That's my favorite skyscraper there. Never... You can never touch us. You can never touch us. We go. Cold, honey. Cold. Yeah, that was nice, going to the top, and I don't want to stay too much over there because I gotta get my workout, and discussing geopolitics in the midst there would have been, of course, not appellative and not conducive to proper understanding where we are now. So that is just what I am, so just So the geopolitical events of today, the geopolitical events of today point, of course, to the geopolitical events. So we're gonna go back in time to 2019. Back in time to 2019, October, November 2019, we're gonna go back in time. Back in time to 2019. That's where we're gonna go. So back in 2019, you gotta leave the baggage at the door for this one. Back in October 2019, I have predicted what's happening now. You heard that correct, and I have proof. If you go back, I created a workout training program system. So in October 2019, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration. In other words, a World War III. You heard that correct? I even have proof. So now that we go into geopolitics, strictly geopolitics, all other topics aside, you have to leave the baggage at the door for the moment and just focus on geopolitics. Back in 2019, October 17th to be precise, I predicted, of course, that there's going to be an international conflagration. You heard that correct. So 2019, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration. In other words, a World War III. I predicted it. I have the proof. I have the video, of course, online, and I have that video, and of course that videos, because it was a series, is also me consequently, of course, creating the workout training program system, which of course I have created now, and of course which I've created, of course I've established more than 372, I've completed, that is, more than 372 sessions, you know, of my own workout training program system back then I created. Since then, that is, since October. And here's another view where you can check, and I'm just gonna stretch for 44 seconds here at the foot, because we're gonna go deeper, and from here to my place is another place, and you see the river there, and that's my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid. See, that is the favorite skyscraper, which is that, and that is something which, of course, you look at this beauty and majesty, of course, of Hawk Island, Montreal, HAWK, the island of the Hawk, and that is just something what we have, of course, to do and to apply now in all the configurations where we are, that I predicted what's happening now back in October 2019, and of course, I have proof of work. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019 as a proof of work, that I have those videos where I, of course, have them. I have completely successfully 372 sessions of my own workout training program system back in 2019 in October, November. That is when I, of course, concluded that humanity is set again towards the course of an international conflagration. And so I created, and produced that workout training program system. We created to go hand in hand with such a scenario, of course, that is undergoing now in a parallel, similar manner to why my predictions were. Of course, back in 2019 in October. And of course, that is the consequential prudence where we are now to, of course, establish the North American Imperial Republic, that is to fuse Canada and United States, via, of course, the implementation of the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Detrol Fusion Theory, and the DFT, the Democratic Fusion Theory, via, of course, implementing all my theories, protocols, and initiatives for a mass public-private partnership component, of course, of all the interactions where we are now in the appellations of need to build ASAP the 44 tunnel structures inclusively, and of course to build the 44 underground subterranean cities and tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, which is a possibility. As you see the sky is getting red, is a possibility that those nuclear warheads can partake in any moment. The world can turn and become a nuclear war environment. That means that when the first nukes are, of course, launched, and keep in mind that Russia's capabilities can reach, of course, all the way internally to Montreal. Of course, it's from Montreal to Moscow, it's 8,500 kilometers, and thus, of course, the Yars 24, of course, the ICBM rocket can travel 10,500 kilometers, meaning that it could reach us here on the island of the Hawk. That's why we got to get into the Golden Hawk Dam ASAP. By my DRT theory, we're going to be able to do it. So now I'm not going to discuss the DRT theory, but of course, I'm going to take it because there's a few raccoons. One big raccoon, unless I get a bit of raccoons. There are some things which I want to go back by that side. I guess it's clear, it's safe, and you got a little bit of the raccoons there on the side. Yeah, so 4 of them, 4 raccoons. I guess if they're going on the side, we're not gonna be in danger, you know. But yeah, I guess we can go down by that way. So we're gonna go around about it. Just don't want to go back unless I get that jump from the raccoon by the same place. So of course that is something which of course we have to appellate, and of course we have to integrate all our beings. That my statement, of which I have proof upon, that I predicted in a general manner what's happening now back in 2019. October 2019, you know. What I did not predict, however, was of course that there's going to be an international conflagration. I predicted an international conflagration, but of course what I did not predict is that something of the manner of which we have now, of course, internally. That's my favorite skyscraper. What we have now, of course, with the United States, the deterioration of relations between Canada and the United States, that I did not predict. Consequently, that was not a prediction which of course I had made. So that is also new for me to consider, you know. That is also new for me to consider. That is something new. So I did not predict that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. So I predicted a general overall international conflict, World War III, but I did not predict that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States, you know, the deterioration with the United States. So that I did not predict, you know, that I did not predict. that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. So that is just something which we have, you go, and that is just something which we appellate, of course, in all the manners which we have, of course, now to get, of course, the educational awareness in terms of geopolitics, how our statements are, of course, factual in the manner that I predicted an general overall conflagration, a general international conflagration, but I did not predict that we and United States, my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, that we're going to have such a deterioration of relations, that we're going to have such a deterioration of relations with the United States. I did not predict it. 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 I did not predict that, I did not predict that, So that's new for me. And it alarms me. I even get shivers when I discuss it. Not just because I was born in the United States. I was in previous 3 incarnations. Once as a woman, twice as a man. Served in the same armed forces that exist now. Served in a past life, previous incarnations. Just read George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. That's why sometimes I get that U.S. Marine cadence. U.S. Marine cadence in my head. Spiritually, physically, U.S. Marines cadence. That's why I get that U.S. Marines cadence. And that's what I sing, that Dragonomic cadence today. As, of course, I call for the fusion thereof, of course, in the Imperial 63 complex, of course, where we are now. Appellation, of course, to get on the domain of where we are, in the situation where we are now, to get it on the love side. And it's important for me to also encourage one and all to exercise, exercise, super important, and support the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the Imperial, Democratic, Republican, as a pro-labor love universal revolutionary centrist, who's a mystic. Just read George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. That is, of course, George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly, where he was, of course, involved in all the manners where we are now today, involved with a mystic beliefs. Like, he wrote one of my favorite poems, Through a Glass Darkly, and there, of course, he states his belief in reincarnations, his belief in reincarnations. Just read it. One of my favorite poems is called Through a Glass Darkly, but there he didn't mention he was my wife. Once I was his wife once, because I was born a man, a woman, a man, but there he only mentions his male reincarnations, but I was a man, a woman, a man. You get that 50-50 androgynous pansexual now, and it alarms me that, of course, this situation, of course, it alarms me that this situation has deteriorated, of course, on the side of the verbosities, of course, that it has deteriorated to such a level which I did not predict. I did not predict at all, actually. I did not predict that there's going to be such a deterioration of relations with the United States from our Canadian perspective. And now, what I'm going to say now, one has to accord, this is a geopolitical statement which cannot be negotiated with, So you have to say yes, 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 yes. You cannot say no, 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 no. You cannot even say maybe, maybe, maybe. That is just something which, of course, you have to state in the affirmative. And this is a geopolitical statement which has to be affirmed in the correct way. Geopolitical, on the left, on the right, on the left, on the right, on the side of the things, in a centrist manner. That, of course, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration, but parallel, I did not predict that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. But, of course, that is something which, of course, you have to say yes in the affirmation, of course, in the positive affirmation, that, of course, we have to get it now on the left and on the right, and all, of course, the interjections where we are now, to get it on the go now, and, of course, to state that this deterioration of relations with the United States is something which alarms me, because I did not predict. And, of course, as a statement, of course, we have to conclude and say, of course, that we have to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States, in regardless, of course, of where we are now. Of course, that is just our main interest. There's no negotiation on that. You cannot negotiate that fact. So that fact cannot be negotiated. You have to, of course, affirm it in the positive. So you cannot say no, you cannot say maybe. You have to say yes. You have to say yes, you know. You can't say no. You can't even negotiate with it, right? So it's not something which you can negotiate in actuality. You have to, of course, say as a positive affirmation. So this positive affirmation is always the same. It's a constant. It does not change at all. So it doesn't change at all, of course, but it's always a constant. It's always the same. So always the same, of course, where we are, is that we have to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. You cannot say no, 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 no. You have to say yes, 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 you know. You have to say yes. So that, of course, consequentially, is something which, of course, you have to say, of course, in all the manner of the propositions where we are, of course, now, to get it on the situational awareness. That is something where we have, of course, to say, of course, in the manner where we are, to say now, of course, and something which, of course, we have to affirm in the positive. So this statement, which comes now, cannot be negotiated with. Cannot be negotiated with. You have to say yes, 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 yes. You cannot say no, 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 no. You cannot say even maybe, maybe, maybe. Maybe, maybe, maybe you say, of course, to whatever, something else, of course, which it is, but not to this statement. So this following statement, you have, of course, to accord it in the yes. You have to say it positively, and so it is positively that you have, of course, to say it in a positive manner. So, of course, that is what it is. So, of course, consequently, it is something which you have, of course, to have to consequently put. So, our main interest, reciprocally for the United States vis-a-vis us, for the United States vis-a-vis us, is, of course, consequently, that you have to say it in the yes. So, us, we have to strive to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. We have to strive to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. With the United States. We have to strive to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. There's no negotiation with that. You have to understand that that is so. That is so. So, of course, consequently, you have to say yes. Have to say yes, you know. So you have to say yes. That is consequently what it is. Consequently what it is. Consequently what it is. Consequently you have to say yes. So there's no no. No no. Look at that beautiful red. I'm gonna go check out that red. Beautiful sunset. Look at that. Look at that beautiful red. Look at that beautiful red. That's what I want to see. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. I'm happy now. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Oh yeah, does that feel good? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love it when I come here, just in the woods, you know, for years and years and years in this life and another life, just like a rebirth. Just like a rebirth, you know. Every time, I guess, you know. And that's why we're gonna come see it. See it. Look at that. Red and rising, red and setting. There it is. Yeah. Back to geopolitics. So back to geopolitics. That's a beauty. Here you can check a little bit of French poem, but you gotta speak some French. So that says "Te rend le monde visible d'un homme." So this is discussing the sun. It starts over there, but you gotta speak about French. If you don't speak French, you're not gonna get it. So this says "Te rend le monde visible." It illuminates the world basically, or makes the world visible. See? It starts here. And it goes, l'unique étoile. L'unique étoile is a star, so the sole star. Basically, is making a reference to the sun. the sun, l'unique étoile. So it's kind of cool. If you gotta check some French. All right, we continue. See, starts here. So the poem starts here. You can see it starts here. It says about the mountains. So it's all around. But again, you need to speak French properly. If you don't speak French properly, then you're gonna maybe misunderstand it. It's really good. It has a deep meaning, you know. It's quite profound. But again, you gotta speak that French. If you don't speak French, you need a good translation, and it doesn't really translate word for word, verbatim per verbatim, you know. It's like Latin sometimes. The facta non verba precibus somno dwelling cum flare or anuit coeptus. Sometimes it doesn't, of course, translate properly, right? From Latin, the Romans, well, we, of course, co-equivalent, of course, to admare ut masque admare, and that is, of course, the admare ut masque admare, and that is just something where we have to be, of course, in the appellation, of course, of now, that we are in the dictums of our life, you know, affirming on the situation where we are now. Beautiful, right? So back to geopolitics, I'm gonna just affirm, of course, the life affirming situations, of course, where we are now, you know, that it's, of course, something where we got to be in the appellation, of course, where we have to be on the congruent side, of course, to get knowledge and get doing, of course, and get, of course, understanding and all the prudent side of things. And that it is, we have to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States that we have, of course, to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States, you know, and the proposition where we are, you know, and some things we just have to do, like we have to work to have the best, reestablish the best, most cordial relations with the United States fully and without equivocation, without any hesitation whatsoever. One has to say yes, yes, yes to this following statement. So our main interest is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States, with the United States, with the United States. Our best, of course, to have most relations with the United States, and consequently, of course, in prudence where we are now, you know. So that is just something where we have to appellate, and of course, we have to be, of course, fully, of course, knowledgeable about the point in fact that it is so, you know, that it is so, you know. So we cannot negotiate with that statement. And the United States vis-a-vis us, United States also, my brothers and sisters, have to work to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, military, defense relations with us. You cannot say no. You cannot say no. You cannot say no. You have to say yes. You have to say yes. It is so. It has been so. It is so, and it will be so. It's a non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate with that statement. Right? You cannot. You can't. Because of our geography, so there are several layers and motives. Due to our geographical position, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, we got two oceans, Pacific and Atlantic, you know. Pacific and the Atlantic. We have the Pacific and the Atlantic. We have to the east, we have the Atlantic. To the west, we have the Pacific. So we have coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We have two oceans. And of course, that is, of course, the reality. And the historical realities is that it makes it so again, because of the historical realities again, which come into play. That's why you have to affirm it in the positive, and that's why it is just like the symbol pi, not the pie, the edible pie, bacon pie, cheese pie, bun pie, blueberry pie, bacon pie, and strawberry pie, strudel pie, chocolate pie, vanilla, also the pie, the edible pies. The pie is in the symbol, which is an N. It's the letter N for normal, natural, neurodivergent, neutral. The N is a letter with two heads, two faces. That's why empire will have two heads, two faces. One for benevolence, goodness, and kindness. The other one for punishment. Because the pi symbol represents the circumference between the diameter. The diameter, of course, the diameter, of course, which represents the ratio. The diameter and the circumference of a circle. So it's strictly related to the circle. The pi symbol is a mathematical constant, which is always the number 3.1416. 3.1416 is a constant mathematical number. And of course, that constant mathematical number is, of course, in relation to, of course, the number, which, of course, we have, of course, said aforementioned, that it is always the relation between the circumference and the circle, the diameter and the circumference and the circle, the ratio the ratio, right? So it's always 3.14, 15, 16. So that is a constant. Such is the constant geopolitical reality, and it at least has been so for the past 75 years, that for us, the United States, and of course the United States vis-a-vis Canada, and for Canada vis-a-vis the United States, we have to strive to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States, right? You follow? So that is just the reality of where we have to be, to say yes, 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 yes. You cannot negotiate and you cannot say no to that, right? It is a constant, again. It's not a variable. A variable might change, but that is the constant, which has been so since about the Second World War, with the fall of of course, of the British Empire, with the fall of the British Empire, with the fall of the British Empire, with the fall of the British Empire. Of course, with the fall of the British Empire. That has been so since the fall of the British Empire, you know? Since the fall of the British Empire. At least since 75 years. And it is so today, and it will be so consequently until, I guess, we have a world federation, just like in the Fifth Element movie. But thus, the geopolitical statement and relation is that you have to say yes. That we, whether you're on the right, on the left, in the center, I'm not discussing center left, center right, of course, not far left and far right here. Reciprocally, both for Canada vis-a-vis the United States and for the United States vis-a-vis Canada, we have to work to have the best economic, social, financial, military, defense relations with each other. That's the geopolitical constant. It is so. And if you can't say yes to this, if you can't affirm it in a positive, yes, it's so, then we can't advance, because this is so, my brothers and sisters of the 63. That is the paradox. And that's why I get goosebumps, because since August 1st, it's been a month with the increase of tariffs on Canada. With the increase on tariffs on Canada, right? The tariffs have increased on Canada. The tariffs have increased on Canada. And we are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. As an unusual and extraordinary threat. An unusual and extraordinary threat. Right? An unusual and extraordinary threat. We are now designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. We are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat vis-a-vis Canada now, right? Vis-a-vis Canada. We are now designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. As an unusual and extraordinary threat. As an unusual and extraordinary threat. That is just how we are. That is just how we are. We have, of course, to be, of course, now, of course, in the situation that we have to affirm it now in the positive, you know, in the positive. So we have to move from there. And it allows me. You know, it allows me because, of course, like I said earlier, it allows me because now, since of course August 1st, we are designated by the United States as an unusual, an extraordinary threat. We are now as designated by the United States as an unusual and extraordinary threat to the American people. It gives me goosebumps. My brothers and sisters, it's serious. You realize the tragedy we're in now. Okay, so regardless of the fentanyl, whether it's crossing that much or not, the reciprocal, of course, motive is supposedly that fentanyl has increased. That fentanyl production has increased, you know. So basically, I don't know if I designate it as a drug anymore. More and more, I think that the fentanyl is like a bioweapon, because it seems to be some tampering with it. And, you know, it doesn't make sense that people are dying so much, and they're so dying, and they're so the negative adverse effects of fentanyl makes me think that there's some tampering with it, and that it's actually more designed as a covert bioweapon than a drug. Because a drug, you would say that it's recreational, and the drug trade, you know, the narco traffickers, the drug dealers, the drug trades, is meant to be economic, financially, commercially viable, right? For money. But if they're losing customers, right? You understand what I mean? The principle is that it doesn't make sense anymore for us to classify fentanyl as a drug, really. At least the one that seems to be some tampering with the drug, and that it's actually more like a biological weapon to me, more and more. But regardless, of course, the RCMP, of course, has, of course, stated that we have consequently, of course, now, because, of course, we have consequently, of course, stated, we have to state, of course, that last year and make the clear definition here, because in the document stated on the website of the United States.gov, whitehouse.gov by the Trump administration and Trump, it's noted that because of the fentanyl has increased 3 times since the last year 2024 level, has increased 3 times since 2024, has increased 3 times since 2024. So is it that it has increased and the potential lethalness of it, and that we did not cooperate of course fully with the, and did not coordinate. The word is actually coordinate, because to cooperate does not necessarily entail coordination, but when you coordinate, you kind of cooperate. So cooperation can sometimes just be sharing of information, but when you coordinate joint action. So like, for example, joint action is in my total mobile defense theory, and of course to implement the 911 total Dragon Army protocol for total SSD by fusion and creating, of course, the Imperial integrated Imperial SSD Legion Security Service and Defense Legion, which is fundamentally a public private partnership. I'm just gonna, of course, get on that hydration, of course, to get it on the go, and that is just something which, of course, we have to appellate and we have to constitute, and we have, of course, to hydrate here. I always admire those who build it, those who build it, of course, on the hydration here for us to have it all the way at top now, and the brains and the muscle who build it, of course, co-equivalencies, of course, in all the general manner, which we have, of course, now to get get hydration, and for me to finish my workout training program system. I got to salute, and it took some brains and some muscle. I always, engineering wise, I always added in the consequential analysis of my geopolitics, because it takes great engineering to build a great dominion of the geopolitical complex of the North American civilizational complex of which we're part of. And of course we have to, of course, consequently and prudently say that we have, of course, now to drink some water and continue, of course, the dictum, of course, in the civilizational aspects of where we are now, to get that DOM in dominion, and of course to integrate in all the life affirming situations where we are now, to hydrate, and of course to open the constituents to further discuss my geopolitical theory philosophies and this analysis, which is of super importance now, because we are at a cross level where, of course, the world is forming blocks outside of the NORAD, what I call the NORAD NATO complex. I call it the NORAD NATO complex, and that is fundamentally where we are, of course, to go, and to fundamentally go in the situational complex where we are now, to get it on that life-affirming positiveness, that we have some solutions. And of course it's not all about the money, right? Because it's not all about the money, money is to buy self-finance. That's why my DRT comes in. And of course that's where we go. To get it now. Like I said, I'm somebody who doesn't like violence, I'm sporty, I'm intense, sporty. I like fitness. I like coming here, doing some of that hiking in the rocks in the back, and I like to see that sunset, and I get lustful and all that. I get lustful with that, but it's something, of course, where I get that lustfulness, and something which, of course, I got to be in all the side of the things where we are now, of course, to get that dynamics, but we have to proposition, and we have, of course, to point ourselves in the direction where we are going to discuss furthermore, to clarify so what I just said. So we have to strive to have the best relations with the United States. Right? With the United States, we have to strive to have the best relations with the United States. We have to strive to have the best relations with the United States. So that is, of course, the best relations with the United States, which we, of course, have to strive to be with. And we have to strive, of course, to have those best relations with the United States co-equivalently. Of course, and it is something which, of course, we have to appellate. Of course, we have to get on that dominion where we are now, that we have to consequently add on that life-affirming stance. And we see that the moon's getting full now, so we're gonna get by that moon. So of course we have to strive to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States. There's no way around that. You cannot negotiate with that. You cannot say no to that. You cannot, of course, negotiate with that. That is, of course, just how it is and what it is. And of course, all the situations where we are involved now, one has to affirm fully that that is so. one has to affirm fully that that is so. So now, of course, where we are now is, of course, in the manner where we going to say yes again to what I said. Our main interest is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, military, defense relations with the United States. You cannot say no. You cannot argue with that. You cannot even say maybe. Right? That's why it's fully alarming that since August 1st we are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat to the United States. You realize the gravity of that situation. You realize the gravity of that situation, that we are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. And as an unusual and extraordinary threat, we are designated right now, since August 1st, to the American people. So it is tragic that we have arrived at such a difficult position. It is very tragic, to be honest. It is very, very tragic. Of course, it is super tragic that we have arrived at this point in time where we are, of course, now, of course, to get the dynamics where we are involved in such a manner with everything that we do, right? So now I'm just going to take a little bit of that, a little bit of a completion, if I will, completion of the statement, and of course an analysis vis-a-vis the statement in a manner in which it can be fully comprehended. Because of our geographical position and our historical past history and our future common destiny, the statement, the geopolitical statement that us Canadians and the United States vis-a-vis us, and us as Canadians vis-a-vis the United States and the United States vis-a-vis us, although there is, United States has a border with Mexico as well, also it's reciprocal vis-a-vis us. Now we must strive to have the best economic, social, financial, defense, military, political, social, cultural, sports relations with each other. Us vis-a-vis the United States vis-a-vis us. However, for the first time, and this I did not predict it, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration in World War III. I did not predict that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. So this is new for me as well. This I have to take into consequences the past 4 months when the trade war with Canada began. And of course, it's been a dragon versus Trump since 2018 when Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. And that is just something we have, of course, to conquer mentally and, of course, to do, right? To conquer mentally for defense. And my strategy is, of course, developed ever since I crossed Canada coast to coast since 2017. The total mobile defense theory, especially, which I can't diverge totally too much on the YouTube channel because it's binational Canada United States security sensitive and can only discuss it with David McGinty and Big Hexhead and high-ranking security officials of Canada United States because it needs to be implemented. But I will discuss the DRT and the consequential other initiatives which I'm calling to be implemented, since I've been calling for their implementation for a few years now. So we have to strive to have the best relations with each other. Now, because of the, as deemed by the United States administration, as lack of coordination, which entails cooperation. Cooperation does not necessarily always entail coordination, but joint action with our law enforcement and the United States law enforcement, that the tariffs have increased on the 1st of August. It's been a month exactly since we are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat to the American people, and that it's stated there that the amount of fentanyl tripled going into the United States, tripled, which could have potentially killed 16 million Americans. 16 million! That's 44% of the population of Canada, right? That's a lot of potential deaths in the United States. 16 million, imagine. And that it tripled the fentanyl coming into crossing the border in comparison to 2024, right? Okay, so now we have to go to a reality on the ground in Canada. We have been warned, we have been warned by the RCMP since 2015. Since 2015, we have been warned by the RCMP that there's, of course, a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups which are taking root in Canada, which are establishing themselves in Canada. Since 2015, it's been years and years and years. The RCMP sounded the alarm just like I sounded the alarm back in 2019 when I said, oh, a storm is coming, a storm is coming, a storm is coming, a storm is coming. And now we have it. now we have kind of the storm of the century in many ways, geopolitically from the 21st century, especially even with the October 7th attacks and other potential China, Taiwan war, and of course internally we have our own domestic problems. But since 2015, the RCMP warned us there's a growing transnational criminal syndicate organizations coming into establishing themselves in Canada. And of course, remember the DMAA theory, the direct military action or assistance, or vice versa, direct military assistance or action. My philosophy, it's a framework of reference for NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member, which I discussed Friday's videos and past videos, and I will discuss in the future, maybe dedicate one on it tomorrow after I do a deep analysis on SCO, on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and their meetings and what they concluded, which is ending today, right? Although they say they're gonna stay for a few more days after the meeting, so that's something which is of a geopolitical bloc alliance, right? So that's the reality, is that the RCMP, which is the equivalent of the FBI, the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, is of course like the FBI in the United States, is of course like the FBI in the United States, is of course like the FBI in the United States, is of course like the Federal Bureau of Investigation, pretty much like our federal police. So they warned us for years now. For years we've been warned. And what happened last year? 25th of October. Last year, 2024, the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Surrey, in Falkland in Surrey, BC, in British Columbia, Surrey, they dismantled the biggest ever fentanyl drug lab, super lab, the biggest super lab in the history of Canada. And then we're warned that the fentanyl has increased crossings by the United States administration. So on the ground, it's proven. Domestically, the fentanyl production in Canada has increased since 2015 in a major way. Because just last year, the RCMP dismantled a super lab. Never in the history of Canada. You can check it out on the RCMP. Right, 25th of October, super lab seizures, or Google it, super lab seizure, RCMP. I showed it on the little clips. 25th of October 2024. 25th of October 2024. 25th. Just last year, it's not been a year yet. And the amount of doses of fentanyl, seized could have killed the population of Canada twice over. Can you imagine just one super lab? That's what I'm saying. It's not just something odd with this fentanyl. More and more, I think that both Canada and the United States, we should declare it a bioweapon. We should declare a bioweapon because we legalized cannabis in 2019. We got so much good weed, so much, not just weed, we got legal hashish. And I bought mine, I think it's going to be 4 years, October. I still have leftovers. I don't smoke much. Last time I smoked was like 4 puffs 4 months ago, something like that. And I guess with my aspiness, I don't need to. I don't know before 2014 if I was a junkie myself, and that is something which we have, of course, to appellate, and of course we have to get on the go with that, and to, of course, communicate all our situational awareness with that, and all the life-affirming matters which we are now, to get it on the love, and get, of course, the dynamics, of course, which we are, of course, to get the affirmations and where we are now, prudently, of course, where we are now in the interactions of our well-beings, and we have, of course, to get that dynamics, and we have to take solutions, and we work towards solution, because we were warned, We were warned, and by the RCMP warned us, and last year it's proven, on the ground, biggest ever drug super labs, super labs. Imagine, could have killed the population of Canada twice over, and now it got us into trouble with our brothers and sisters in the US, which we gotta solve, because of course so much fentanyl, and that's just the reality that it's so deadly. It's so deadly, and the mass production here by transnational organized criminal syndicate groups. And I believe that some of these transnational criminal organized groups are, of course, being supported by foreign governments due to, the DMAA, philosophy, the direct military assistance or action, or direct military action or assistance, which is a geopolitical theory which relates to NATO and NATO's activities when it comes to direct assistance or action vis-a-vis other countries with which we have no, which are not part of NATO, right? You can get acquainted with it in last videos, and I'm going to discuss it in tomorrow, probably more in depth than today. But now I'm gonna head home because I'm getting hungry, so gotta head back. So in the year of darkness, it's 31st of October 2029, and I'm also an ASPI. I build supercomputers, satellites with a fellow scientist. I'm a super scientist, a hybrid of Elon Musk, my brother Scorpio, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and of course Wozniacki and several other scientists. In 2029, in that parallel timeline, in the year of darkness, October 31st, it's Halloween 2029. I build, construct super supercomputers, and the dynamics, of course, which are built. I'm being built on that situational awareness to get it on the go, and that is, of course, something which you gotta see there. So as we go on the go, and that is sometimes which we gotta get doing with that, and gotta get a little bit of that fun, you know. So back, of course, to the DMAA, the direct military assistance and action. We gotta get it on that go for that, and gotta get it for the parallel timeline in October 31st. It's Halloween, and it's the year of darkness 2029. I built supercomputers, microchips, satellites, all things to do with 3G, 4G, 5G. In that parallel timeline, we got on that 7G now. 7G, sats, and everything to do with microcomputers and AI, super AI development, total integrated citizen military AI for the NATO complex in the year of darkness, NORAD NATO 2029. So we were warned by the RCMP for a decade now, and of course, for a decade we've been warned, and we have been warned several times. And now we have these fruits, I guess, which went bad because it kind of deteriorated our relations with the United States, which paradoxically we have to have the best relations with the United States. More than 75% of our goods go to the US. And the European market are not going to be able to absorb, even in the long term, it's going to take a few years to absorb 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%. It's probably going to be, of course, in a few years, because they also have their economic problems, the Germans, right? So we're not going to be able to export to Europe as we want to. So we're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to. It's just unrealistically. It's more than 75% of our exports. That's why my way to fuse Canada, United States best via the implementation, of course, of my Trinity theories. And of course, my Trinity theories has to be implemented consequently. Now, as I go down on this darkness, in the darkness, I'm going to discuss, of course, the DRT, the death rule fusion theory. The DRT, I have to be careful on the steps because I'm in the darkness, and it's, of course, some things which I gotta be careful roundabout now to get, of course, going down the mountain, heading back to my headquarters, you know. So again, it's a worrisome situation that we are in a position where the relations have deteriorated in such a manner, you know. And whether some admit it more than others, it's a difficult position and a dangerous position, you know, because this dangerous position is we're vulnerable, you know, and this vulnerability is that we are now of our own security risk because of XYZ factors. And the fact is that the RCMP last year, 25th of October, dismantled the biggest ever super lab in the history of Canada. Right? Biggest ever super lab. It produced so many doses of fentanyl that could have potentially killed the whole